Imagine London, December 1952, a city cloaked not in festive cheer, but in a thick, yellow-black fog. This wasn't the usual London mist. This was a killer smog, a silent, suffocating blanket that would descend upon the city and refuse to leave for 5 long days. What you're seeing are real photographs from that time. A city brought to a standstill. In the early days of December, a cold front settled over London. Usually, wind and rain would disperse the city's pollution. But this time, an anticyclone, a high-pressure weather system, acted like a lid on a pot, trapping the cold air near the ground. London at the time was powered by coal. Millions of homes burned cheap, low-grade, sulfur-rich coal for heat. Power stations, like the iconic Battersea Power Station, belched plumes of smoke into the sky. Factories added their own toxic cocktail of pollutants. All this smoke, packed with sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and soot, had nowhere to go. It was trapped in the cold, stagnant air layer blanketing the city. The fog began to form on the evening of Thursday, December 4th. By the next day, Friday, December 5th, visibility had dropped to a matter of feet. People couldn't see their own hands in front of their faces. Traffic ground to a halt. Buses were abandoned in the streets, their drivers unable to see the curb. Conductors had to walk in front of the vehicles with flares, just to guide them back to the depot. The River Thames, usually a bustling artery of trade, was closed. Trains were cancelled. Even air travel was suspended. London was isolated, sealed within its own poisonous atmosphere. But life, or a strange version of it, had to go on. People tried to navigate their city, tying scarves over their mouths and noses, a futile gesture against the invisible poison they were breathing. Indoors offered little respite. The smog seeped through cracks in doors and windows, filling homes, cinemas, and theaters. It was so thick inside that movie screenings had to be stopped because audiences couldn't see the screen. Concerts were cancelled because the performers were lost in the haze. Imagine sitting in a theater and not being able to see the stage. That was the reality. The smog was not just a visual obstruction, it was a chemical soup. The sulfur dioxide and other pollutants in the air mixed with water droplets in the fog, forming a diluted but highly corrosive sulfuric acid. This acidic mist stung the eyes, irritated the throat, and attacked the lungs. For the healthy, it was a deeply unpleasant experience. Coughing and wheezing became the soundtrack of the city. But for the very young, the elderly, and those with pre-existing respiratory conditions like asthma or bronchitis, it was a death sentence. Hospitals were quickly overwhelmed. Ambulances, struggling to navigate the blind streets, took hours to reach patients. Many never made it. People were literally suffocating in their own homes. The initial death toll was staggering. In the weeks that followed, it became clear that thousands had perished. The official count at the time was around 4,000 deaths directly attributable to the smog. But modern analysis puts the number much higher, closer to 12,000 fatalities in the following weeks and months, with over 100,000 more falling ill. The smog was so dense that it even affected the city's wildlife. Birds, disoriented, flew into buildings. Cattle in the Smithfield market were asphyxiated. It was a complete environmental catastrophe, happening in the heart of one of the world's greatest cities. What's truly shocking is the initial reaction, or rather, the lack of it. At first, the government downplayed the severity of the event. Smog, or pea soupers as they were known, were a familiar part of London life. This one was just considered a particularly bad one. There was no sense of national emergency. Newspapers reported on the disruption, but the true human cost took time to emerge as undertakers ran out of coffins and florists ran out of flowers. The Great Smog of 1952 was a brutal wake-up call. It was undeniable proof that air pollution could kill on a massive scale. The event shocked the public and spurred a revolution in environmental awareness and legislation. Before this, the idea of clean air as a public right was not a mainstream concept. In the aftermath, the government was forced to act. A series of investigations and committees led to the landmark Clean Air Act of 1956. This groundbreaking legislation introduced smoke control areas in towns and cities. In these zones, only smokeless fuels could be burned. It shifted homes away from burning cheap, dirty coal towards cleaner alternatives like gas, oil, and electricity. The act also mandated that factories and power stations switch to less polluting fuels or build taller chimneys to disperse smoke more effectively. The Clean Air Act of 1956 and its later amendments dramatically changed the air quality in London. The infamous pea soupers became a thing of the past. It was one of the most significant pieces of environmental legislation ever passed and became a model for the rest of the world. The Great Smog of London is a dark chapter in the city's history, but it holds vital lessons that are more relevant today than ever. It shows us the deadly consequences of unchecked pollution and the power of public outcry to force government action. It reminds us that the air we breathe is a precious resource, and that protecting it is not a matter of choice, but of survival. As we look at these haunting black and white images from 70 years ago, we see a city shrouded in its own self-made poison. A stark warning from the past to our present, a reminder that progress should never come at the cost of the air we breathe and the health of our planet. The silent victims of the Great Smog pushed a generation to demand change, leaving a legacy of cleaner air that we benefit from today. Let's not forget their story. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into history. See you next time.